Right now, there is plastic in your brain. On the surface, our environment suggests macroscopic safety. But beneath the human eye, that safety disappears into a suspension of jagged, synthetic debris. Every brain tissue sample analyzed in the 2024 University of New Mexico study contained measurable quantities of microplastics and nanoplastics. The concentration is increasing. 2024 samples contained measurably higher plastic loads than 2016 tissues, indicating rapid accumulation. This represents a failure of the blood-brain barrier. These tight cellular junctions evolved to stand firm against biological threats, blocking bacteria, viruses, and chemicals. However, nanoplastics, particles measuring less than a single micron, are small enough to physically bypass these junctions. They enter the brain without triggering a defensive response, because they operate below the barrier's evolutionary threshold. We have unintentionally manufactured a class of material that renders our most sophisticated biological defense obsolete. The brain is merely the most protected site of a total anatomical breach. 2024 cardiac research indicates the same saturation in the cardiovascular system. Multiple independent laboratories have now verified a 100% prevalence rate of microplastics in the heart tissues of patients undergoing cardiac surgery. A 2022 study in Environment International found that 77% of human blood samples tested positive for plastic polymers. These particles are not inert. They have been observed interacting directly with the surface of red blood cells. The contamination extends to the earliest stages of development. In 2020, researchers discovered plastics on both the maternal and fetal sides of the human placenta, embedded in the pathway meant to transfer nutrients and oxygen. This burden is passed to the next generation immediately. 100% of tested human breast milk samples contained microplastics, meaning infants receive industrial waste in their first meal. From the point of gestation, human biology is now fundamentally integrated with synthetic industrial debris. Evidence of the clinical impact surfaced in a 2024 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which tracked patients undergoing surgery for arterial disease. This survival curve maps the 34-month follow-up. Patients with microplastics in their arterial plaques suffered significantly divergent outcomes. The presence of plastic correlated with a 4.5 times higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and all-cause mortality. This risk is driven by a chronic inflammatory cascade. When immune cells attempt and fail to break down these immovable synthetic shards, they trigger a state of localized inflammation that never resolves. In the brain, this same mechanism takes a neurological toll. Plastic accumulation in glial cells, the brain's maintenance system, is linked to the neuroinflammation found in Alzheimer's and dementia. These particles function as active, destructive clinical vectors that contribute directly to modern spikes in cardiovascular and neurological disease. Physical friction is only the first layer of the crisis. Plastics also release a chemical payload, including BPA, phthalates, and PFAS. These compounds act as endocrine disruptors, chemicals that hijack the body's hormonal signaling by mimicking or blocking natural messages. A primary target of this disruption is the HPG axis, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal feedback loop, that serves as the master regulator of human reproductive function. In 2024, researchers confirmed microplastics in human testicular tissue. This finding provides a biochemical link to the global decline in sperm counts, which have dropped by 50% since 1973. Environmental plastic is now compromising the reproductive viability of the human species. The average person now ingests approximately 5 grams of microplastic every week. That is the equivalent weight of a credit card, accumulating to 250 grams per year. Primary entry points include bottled water and municipal tap water, along with contaminated sea salt. Agricultural soil acts as another conduit, where fruits and vegetables absorb particles, migrating into the animals we eat. Synthetic clothing represents a pervasive airborne threat. Modern textiles release millions of invisible microfibers with every wash, and into the indoor air of our homes. These particles accumulate in indoor dust and leach from food packaging directly into our meals, a transfer that increases significantly when food is heated. With these exposure vectors present in the air, water, and food supply, researchers have found it impossible to establish a modern human baseline with zero plastic contamination. In 1950, global plastic production was limited to approximately 2 million tons. By 2024, that output surged to 400 million tons annually, a 200-fold increase in less than a century. Industry documents show that manufacturers were aware of the bioaccumulation risk as early as the 1970s, specifically noting that PFAS were accumulating in human blood. This data was suppressed, utilizing the same delay tactics previously seen in the tobacco and sugar industries to prevent public awareness while production scaled. This unchecked growth has saturated the global water cycle, resulting in PFAS-contaminated rainwater on every continent, including the Arctic. The current crisis is the result of 7 decades of exponential industrial scaling and engineered silence regarding the biological consequences. Localized bans on single-use items are mathematically overwhelmed by a 400 million ton annual production cycle. Attempts at global regulation have met with the same gridlock. In November 2024, negotiations for a global plastics treaty in Busan collapsed without an agreement. Due to the sheer scale of the contamination, scientific researchers have effectively abandoned the goal of removing microplastics from the human body. Scientific focus has shifted from preventing environmental exposure to managing the synthetic load already present inside the body. How many times does this happen before the response changes? The bioburden is permanent. There are currently no approved medical treatments for the removal of these particles, and the accumulation is compounding within you right now. The study of plastic pollution has evolved into the study of a biological transformation within ourselves.